$7 trillion of subsidy are provided to the fossil fuel companies by the governments of the world. We are subsidizing our own poison. Reason? Desire. And the oil companies, the energy companies, they are funding everybody. Media, universities, elections, they are funding everything. And they are continuously denying that there is a climate crisis. They are calling it a... The average Indian, still releases a sustainable level of carbon, still not cross the threshold. So you can live very coolly and even emit carbon if you're not entirely mad. But if you look at the average American, 14 tons. Average Indian, 2 tons. Average Chinese, 8 tons. Now that's where madness is.
Sir, my question is related to climate change. Sir, in 1980s, there was a problem of a ozone hole crisis. On that time, 197 countries come together and signed a Montreal protocol. And we resolved that problem.
Yes.
Today, climate change is in a bigger threat from that.
Yes.
But why countries are not uniting for this?
Yes. Lovely. Wonderful question. In fact, 99% of the Montreal targets have been met now. Not now, this happened a few years back. And the ozone hole will still take a few decades to totally heal. But we have done what we needed to do, right? The chlorofluorocarbons, the CFCs, 99% of the emissions we have managed to cut. And now the hole is healing, and it will take like 2 or 3 more decades, and we have solved the problem there. So it's a good question. It often comes up in context of the current climate crisis. That how did mankind succeed when it came to the ozone crisis, the ozone hole? Most of you were not born when that crisis was peaking. That was in the 80s and 90s. When I was growing up, then ozone was a big thing. You know of chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs? So at that time, they were used in all these cooling devices. Fridges, ACs, mostly these. Some sprays as well. Some sprays also contained CFCs. And then it was discovered in the 70s, maybe before that. And the concern was great in the 80s. Because the ultraviolet rays, the ozone layer stops those rays. The ultraviolet rays of the sun, they were causing all kinds of problems. And most horribly skin cancer. And that was actually happening. There was data to support that. We managed to solve that problem. So often a question arises, why are we not able to solve the climate crisis in the same way? And that question is not just inquiry. Often it becomes deceptive also, because it traps us into wishful thinking. A lot of people who do not want to attach the requisite importance to climate action, they say, well, 4 decades back, you're crying horse over ozone. But see, we conquered that. And similarly, we'll be able to conquer the climate threat also. Don't worry. Not much effort is needed. No, great effort is needed, and there are several distinctions. I hope I'm able to enumerate some of them. The first thing is, that one was one gas, right? Or one family of gases, the chlorofluorocarbons. This one is humanity itself. Okay, let's take the example of this hall. The ozone crisis was the air conditioning system, right? You take care of the air conditioning system and you have solved the ozone problem. Because this is the only place where CFCs exist. Yes. In the cooling pipes, right? This is the only place where CFCs exist. You take care of that and you have solved the ozone crisis. But look at the climate crisis. This is climate. The production of this releases carbon dioxide. This is climate. Not just in production, even in washing, even in dyeing. Your desires are climate. You want to fly to Switzerland for honeymoon, that is carbon dioxide. Cement is carbon dioxide. How do I forget the biggest culprit? Energy. This illumination, these photons, they are carbon dioxide. These gadgets, they are carbon dioxide. The wood here is carbon dioxide. I hope there is no wood. I hope this just appears like wood. Huh? Good. Thank you. You know of the clear relation between deforestation and carbon emission, right? You know of that. Everything is carbon dioxide here. Everything, every single thing. And if there is milk in this tea, that is carbon dioxide. You know the relationship of dairy with carbon emissions, right? You know that animal agriculture is the second biggest contributor to carbon emissions. You know of that, right?
Yes.
So this mug is carbon dioxide. This tea is carbon dioxide. This shirt is carbon dioxide. This energy is carbon dioxide. This cement is carbon dioxide. This wood is carbon dioxide. Basically, everything that you love is carbon dioxide. Nobody loved CFCs, but you love the tea, and that's the problem. When CFCs were to be eliminated, all you were facing was a small CFC lobby. And when alternatives were introduced, even that lobby complied. That lobby said, fine, now we have alternatives to the chemicals, the CFCs, so that's fine. But when it comes to the climate crisis, man and everything that he does is responsible. Everything that you do releases carbon. And not that you need to have zero release of carbon, you need to have net zero release of carbon, which means that there are natural carbon sinks, the forests and the oceans, most notably. They anyway keep absorbing carbon dioxide. So if to a certain extent you are releasing carbon dioxide, to the extent of, let's say, 2 tons per person per year, to that extent, if you release carbon dioxide, the oceans and the other natural things like forests, and so they will absorb, even soil absorbs it to some extent. They'll absorb it. But beyond that, when it comes to your desires, every single desire, every single emotion is a carbon emitter. The biggest contributor to climate change, okay, tell me, guess.
Meat.
So elaborate. Population.
Population.
That's the biggest contributor to climate change. Population. But population is desire. The girl wants the boy wants the girl, then the two want kids. And if the two do not want kids, then the mother-in-laws want kids. Even if the mother-in-law doesn't want kids, then the neighbors want kids. And the priests want kids. And the religious leaders are saying, if you do not produce kids, then the other side will dominate, so you increase your population. And population is the biggest contributor to the climate crisis. This was not the case with ozone. There is a great difference. Do you understand this? Ozone was a little thing. You can imagine it like this. Ozone was one bad leaf on the tree. One bad leaf on the tree, what will you do? Pluck it, throw it away. It's easy. Climate crisis is the root of the tree. Which tree am I talking of? Man and his desires. By man, I mean mankind, man and woman. Sorry. Wait. Do you see this? Plucking one bad leaf was all right without dismantling the entire structure of our life, our institutions, our families, our concepts of happiness and success. It was easy. Just pluck one leaf and you have solved the ozone thing. But when it comes to the climate crisis, you have to uproot the entire tree. And we are not agreeing to that because we love our lifestyle. We want to fly. We want to have babies. The very concept of happiness is, if you consume more, you will be happy. If instead of a two-wheeler, you have a four-wheeler, you are considered successful. right? So everything, the very deepest philosophy that an individual carries within is climate change. Now, to solve the climate crisis, you will have to substitute almost the DNA of man. The way we think, the way our relationships are, the way we define the good life, all of this has to be changed. And we are not ready. We are just not ready. You know, the total investment that was needed to tackle the ozone threat was just a few $1 billion. That too spaced over several decades. Now compare. This in fact will reveal the whole thing to you, because numbers. A few $1 billion, that too spaced over several decades. The climate crisis to be tackled requires $4.5 trillion per year. That kind of layout. We don't want to put in that much money because it's our money, right? And we would rather spend it on our desires. Why should I spend money tackling the climate crisis? $4.5 trillion per year are needed to tackle the climate crisis. And if you put in that money, you'll also accept a certain reduction in the GDP growth rates. You must be ready for that. We are not ready for that. Are you getting it? Yes. That does not mean that you have to be scared by this large number, $4.5 trillion. From where will you bring it? In fact, the entire GDP of India is just $4 trillion. From where will global $4.5 trillion come? Not a daunting task. To put things in perspective, $7 trillion of subsidy are provided to the fossil fuel companies by the governments of the world. We are subsidizing our own poison. And we are saying we don't have $4 trillion for climate action. We don't have $4 trillion for the medicine, but we have $7 trillion for our poison. Reason? Desire. Fuel is good. Fuel is energy, and energy fulfills desire. Whatever you want, you need energy, right? And energy is carbon. What do? Kids are carbon, energy is carbon, food is carbon. But you are entitled to release some carbon. Not that you have to come to a point of zero emission. You are entitled to release some carbon. The average Indian, still releases a sustainable level of carbon. The average Indian has still not crossed the threshold. So you can live very coolly and even emit carbon if you're not entirely mad. But if you look at the average American, 14 tons. Average Indian, 2 tons. Average Chinese, 8 tons. Now that's where madness is. You and me would be standing at like 2 or 3 or something. In fact, given the fact that I don't have kids, and I would never have kids, my contribution, my long-term contribution would be well under 2 tons. Probably even under a ton per year. Are you getting it? Yes. So the fundamental difference between the ozone thing and the climate thing, the ozone thing and the carbon dioxide thing, is that ozone was about tackling a gas, and the climate crisis is about tackling mankind itself. It is not a technological problem. CFCs were a problem of technology. Climate, carbon dioxide, is not a problem of technology. It is a problem of civilization. It is a spiritual problem. I call it a spiritual problem because our hearts have to be changed to tackle this problem. It's a spiritual problem. And that's why we are losing the climate war daily. Instead of reduction, every successive year, the global carbon emissions are only increasing. 2030, we envisaged a 44% cut as per the 2015 Paris Agreement. Instead of a cut, what we have is an increase. And it's not that we are increasing every year. Forget about a 44% cut, we are not going down by even 1%. We have actually gone up. Why? Because we do not know ourselves. When you don't know yourself, then you are attracted towards everything. See, if I do not know what I'm lacking in, then I'll rush towards every object I can see. That is called desire. When I do not know who I am, and therefore I do not know what I actually want, I'll rush towards every object I can touch. That is called blind desire, and that is the carbon crisis. The answer will be wisdom. The answer will have to be civilizational, rather spiritual. Just download the Acharya Prashant app, and there you go to the community section, and you have live testimonials streaming in at the rate of 1 every 5 minutes. I'm seeing lives change in thousands, if not millions, every day in front of my own eyes. We are doing it.
Right.
We have actually done it.
Join the community of more than 2 lakh participants on the Acharya Prashant app. Your first month is completely free. You'll get full access to Gita Mission. On the app, you will get regular live sessions, daily exclusive conversations with Acharya Prashant, access to the vibrant Gita community, wisdom exams, curated news, audiobooks, quotes, and much more. Search Acharya Prashant on Google Play Store or Apple App Store and download now.